You ever feel like life's just kind of happening to you? Like you're just kind of stuck in the matrix? Anyone who's ever seen that movie knows that Neo was just kind of living this life where it was kind of like just go through the motions, wake up, get dressed, go to work, come home, eat dinner, go to bed, wake up, do the exact same thing. You're in the same routines, the same habits, the same results, and you don't even kind of notice that life is just passing you by. It's kind of like when you walk into the kitchen, you forget why you're there, and suddenly you're eating a bowl of cereal at 2 p.m., wondering what happened. Or when you drive somewhere and you don't even remember driving somewhere, you got in the car and you got to the place, but you're like, I don't remember what happened. Hope I didn't run any red lights. That's kind of what surviving feels like. You're kind of stuck in autopilot, just going through the motions of life. See, survival mode feels normal, but normal isn't always what's right. Sometimes it's just what's familiar and what's convenient. Welcome back to Simply Satisfied, where we break down simple solutions for health, wealth, and happiness. My name is Greg, and I have learned the hard way that life does not get better by accident, it gets better by intention. Today, I want to talk to you about how to break free from survival mode and start living, really living, in a way that's simple, satisfying, and sustainable. Let's dive on in. So, why do people stay stuck in survival mode? Well, looking back on my life, I can tell you about one time I was officiating this high school basketball game and things were just going insane. It was a close game, minutes left on the clock, players were arguing, coaches were screaming, and I was sprinting up and down the court like I was on fire. I wasn't making good calls. In fact, none of us were, but I wasn't making good calls. I was just reacting to what was going on around me. One coach would scream in my ear and I would react to him, and then go down the court and the other coach would scream in my ear and I would react to him, and it would look bad for the other coach. And, I was constantly trying to appease to everyone around me. I didn't have a strategy. I didn't have a presence. I was just stuck in this survival mode of let me just get through this game. See, survival mode makes you feel like you are doing something, like you are being productive. However, you're just treading water. And if you're constantly reacting to things instead of responding, then you're not thriving. You're just managing chaos. You see, there's a difference between surviving and thriving, right? There's a difference between living your best life and living just kind of going through the motions. There's a difference between optimizing your performance and optimizing who you are versus keeping your head down and just waltzing through. You see, and most people don't know about this. They're not aware of their own actions, of their own mindsets, of their own beliefs. I had a client when I was a personal trainer one time, and he was super dedicated. The guy would show up 5:30 in the morning, ready to work, hyped up, motivated, but halfway through the session, he would just kind of be, in between sets, he would be scrolling on his phone. He wasn't really giving it all. Like, I told the guy he was stronger than he could do more weight, let's push it. And after he showed up and kind of warmed up and everything, all of the motivation, all the hype up kind of went away. And after a few weeks, he came to me and said, "Why am I not seeing results?" I was like, dude, like you are here, like your body is here, but when it comes to your workouts, you are not here. It's like you come in, you're super hyped up, you're ready to go, and then it seems like when you come out of the locker room from changing, you're like, okay, I'm gonna do it, but like not too hard today. I said, you're surviving the workout, not actually doing the workout. And fitness aside, I feel like a lot of us kind of do this, right? You can't thrive if you're always waiting for the right time to start living. If you went to, just like my client asking me why I'm not seeing results. If you went to your boss after working for years and years and years, and you worked the same hours and produced the same amount of work and went home and did nothing, and you just kind of kept your head down and did your job, did the bare minimum. And if you went to your boss and you asked for a promotion, or if you asked for a raise, what do you think your boss would say? Probably hell no, right? Because the whole idea is that you haven't changed anything. You haven't challenged yourself. You haven't grown at all. Why would they reward you for staying the same? So in fitness, why would your body reward you with results if your process is the exact same as when you started? If you are not making any measurable progress, why would your body show progress? And that's the same thing with life, right? Being busy isn't the same as being productive. The amount of people that I went in, that I watched walk into the gym, came straight into the door, went straight to the treadmill, or they changed first, but they went straight to the treadmill and they put it on 3 or 2, and they walked for 30 minutes, or they jogged for 45 minutes. No incline, no whatever. And they put it on the same speed and the same time. They did the same amount of time every single day, or every other day, or 3 days a week for months on end. And they never saw any results, right? They're coming in and doing a lot of busy work, but not productive work. They were moving somewhat. It's a treadmill, so it doesn't move. But they were moving. But just because you're moving doesn't mean you are moving forward in life. Just because you are in motion doesn't mean that you have momentum. And so, how do you start thriving and stop surviving, right? So going back to the basketball game, when I realized that I was playing it too safe with my calls and with my presence and my strategy of officiating, I realized that I needed to make a change. I was not making bold calls. I was not putting myself out there because I was scared of the backlash from the teams or the coaches or my assigner or my partners. I was scared of being wrong. And a big lesson that I realized is you are more wrong in not acting or not making a decision than you are in making the wrong decision. Because at least when you make the wrong decision, when you fail, you can learn from it. But when you can't or won't act on something, when you are stuck in indecision, when you are stuck in procrastination, when you are stuck in overanalyzing or overthinking, there's no failure there, and there's no opportunity for you to learn from making a wrong decision. So it's actually better to be wrong and make a decision than it is to not act at all, right? And so once I started trusting my judgment, once I started stepping into those moments rather than shying away from them, I became a stronger official, but I also became a stronger person because I stopped hesitating and I stopped hiding who I am and what I'm here to do, right? Thriving is about choosing courage over comfort. See, when somebody wants to survive, they will kind of just stay exactly where they're at. Our bodies and our brains love to keep us exactly where we're at. It's called homeostasis. Our brains act like a thermostat sometimes, but they are really bad at changing the thermostat. As soon as you introduce something different, your brain is going to be like, whoa, 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 what is going on right now? That is not good. As soon as you start working out, your brain's going to be like, stop. Soon as you start eating differently or drinking more water, your brain's going to be like, why are we doing this? This isn't what we're used to, right? Thriving instead of surviving is about choosing courage to make those decisions rather than being comfortable, even if it feels super risky. I remember I asked my doctor one time, I said, why are the 2 suggestions for drinking water to drink either a half a gallon a day or to cut your body weight in half, and that's how many ounces of water you should drink? As a previous personal trainer and nutrition coach, one of the 3 things that I would always tell clients they should, number 1, do from day 1 is to start drinking a gallon of water a day. And most people, they don't start on day 2 getting in a gallon of water a day because everyone says the same thing. Oh my gosh, a gallon of water, that's so much. I'm going to be peeing all day and, this and that and everything. It's not the actual, well, it is. Once you get to a gallon of water a day, it's going to change your life. But like Jim Rohn says, everyone should not, not everyone can have $1 million, but everyone should want to be a millionaire for the type of person it makes you, right? And so everyone should shoot for a gallon of water a day because if you go to the doctor and the doctor says, oh, you should drink a half a gallon of water a day. Okay, awesome. And you hit a half a gallon of water the next day, and then you hit a half a gallon of water the next day, and then you have a bad day, or you have a busy day, and you forget to drink water. And instead of drinking a half a gallon, which is 64 ounces, now you've had 12. And then the very next day, you wake up and you have a migraine, and you're stressed out, and you're sore, and you're not hungry, or you're super hungry, or whatever it may be, combination of all of those. And you're going to wonder, why is this happening? Versus if you shoot for a gallon of water a day, right? The bare minimum is a half a gallon or your body weight cut in half, whatever you want to say. That's the bare minimum to just survive. I mean, you can survive on less. Anyone can survive on less. But that's the bare minimum that most people should shoot for. Now, if you shoot for a gallon of water a day and you hit it one day and then you're 10 ounces below it the next day, and you're 10 ounces over it the next day, and you're 30 ounces below it the next day, guess what? No matter how far off you are, unless you are completely 60, 70 ounces off, you are still above the bare minimum of a half a gallon of water a day to keep yourself hydrated, to keep yourself moving. And I don't mean like your body moving. I mean your digestive system, your brain, your energy. And once you start drinking a gallon of water a day, everything's going to change. Like, I never had a single client who didn't get to a gallon of water a day. None of them came back and said, oh my gosh, like this sucks. Every single one of them came back and said, I wish I was doing this sooner in life because I have so much energy. Yes, I'm peeing a lot, but I have so much mental clarity. I have so much energy. I had just everything. Like I digest food better. I don't overeat or I don't undereat. For the people who had a hard time gaining weight, it would help them eat more. For the people who had a hard time losing weight, it would help them eat less. And so you have to realize that when you are just going through the motions, when the doctor says, oh, this is the bare minimum, drink a half a gallon of water a day, you'll be good. You don't want to just be good. And if you just want to be good, awesome. This ain't the show for you. This show is about untapping human potential, right? Optimizing who you are as a person, not only mentally, emotionally, spiritually, but also physically. And you have to realize that in order to strive, in order to live life to the fullest, it's always going to be about seeing what you can improve upon. Because if you're not improving, if you're not changing who you are, if you're not making any even marginal gains, what is life? The opposite of life is death. And if you're not making any marginal gains, you're sliding the other way. There's a movie called Nerve. And for anyone who's seen the movie, or for anyone who hasn't seen the movie, I'm going to give a little summary. There's all these teenagers and 20-year-olds playing this game on their phone where people get to do dares and post the videos to the dares. It's kind of like, some people on YouTube and TikTok, but you get paid out for doing these ridiculous dares, like going into a store and trying on a dress and then stealing it, or hanging off a crane one-handed. That's hundreds of feet in the air. And in the movie, the main character goes to this big crucible of, she starts off, there's players and there's watchers, and the players are the ones who are doing the dares and the watchers are the people who are just watching them. And in the movie, the main character goes through, this crucible of, I don't want to be a watcher anymore. I want to live life. And she meets a player and, she becomes a player and all this other stuff. I won't spoil too much. And it reminded me of real life because there was a study done that said that there are more people on Instagram and TikTok who have accounts who don't make any videos or who make less than a video a month or a video a week than there are people who create. There are more people who just watch other people live life than there are people who live their life. Isn't that insane? There are more people out there watching other people live life than there are out there living their life on social media. To me, that is absolutely absurd. And the reason it's so absurd is because I was the same way. For years and years and years, I was too afraid of putting myself out there for what people might think of me. But I was constantly looking at all these people put videos up, not caring what other people thought of them. Call it jealousy, call it envy, call it whatever you want to call it. But it didn't get me anywhere. Yes, I had a great life, surviving, going through things, had some tough times, but I wasn't really thriving on who I could be. And so I'm not saying you should run through the streets blindfolded like they did in the movie, but the lesson stands here. And the lesson is true growth. Growth and change and life happens when you are willing to step outside your comfort zone. When you're willing to go against the grain, when you're willing to challenge yourself in some even minuscule way. Because you cannot thrive in life if you only make decisions that feel safe. So back to when I was coaching, right? Let's keep it simple. That's what I told everybody. And that's what I'm telling you now. Let's keep it simple. The clients and people that I've worked with in the past who made the biggest progress were not the ones who did all the fancy workouts, or were not the ones who did all the fancy marketing or editing or whatever else. They were the ones who nailed the basics. If you go look at any bodybuilder, it doesn't even have to be a bodybuilder, any physique, men's physique, women's bikini competitions, if you look at their workouts, they're not doing some crazy dragon squat twist into a pirouette on a Pilates machine. They are doing the very basic movements that have been around since the beginning of working out. They don't overcomplicate things. The clients that I had, they didn't overcomplicate the process. They showed up, they ate better, and they stuck to the plan. And when the plan stopped working, they made a new plan and then stuck to that plan. Simple, keeping things simple works. I don't know if you ever heard this, the KISS method, keep it simple, stupid. It applies to everything in life. Now, big thing here is simplicity is not about doing less. Okay? It's not about having less. It's not about being a minimalist. It's not about cutting everything out of your life. Simplicity is not about doing less. It's about doing more of what matters most. It is about looking at your life and prioritizing what actually matters. If one of your biggest values is family, and you are pushing off family for entrepreneurship or fitness or relationships or whatever else, then you may have to look at your values again. But if one of your biggest values is family, then you should do more of things with your family, right? In turn, you're going to end up doing less of everything else. There's a principle from a very, very old Italian man. His last name was Pareto. It's called the Pareto principle. And it's also called the 80-20 rule, which says that 80% of your results come from 20% of the work you're doing. If you look at your life, if you can truly look at your life and analyze it and figure out what that 20% is and give 100% to that 20%, anything you're trying to do, whether it's start a business or get in shape or whatever it may be, anything you're trying to do, if you can narrow down on that 20%, you will make so much progress and you will start thriving, and you won't just be surviving, because if you look at it, only 20% of what you're doing gets you 80% of results. So 80% of what you're doing only gives you 20% of the results, right? So 80%, if I did 10 things in a day, 8 of those things really didn't matter that much. They mattered a little bit, but not very much. So stop filling your life with just all this noise, right? When you stop filling your life with noise, you finally hear what's important. You finally start being productive instead of busy. You finally start thriving instead of surviving. And this 80-20 rule applies to a bunch of different things. We can do a whole other show on time management, but I remember when I first learned about time management. I was in graduate school doing my master's online through Southern New Hampshire. And my advisor, I was working 3 jobs. I was doing 3 classes at the time, and I was also becoming a certified personal trainer. And my advisor was like, what do you know about time management? And I was like, I think I know a lot about time management. She said, okay, well, tell me when you do your homework every single week. And I was like, oh, well, I kind of just do it whenever. And she was like, well, then if you're not managing your time, how can you say you know anything about time management? I was like, well, I know what it is. She's like, well, you can say, she's like, you're getting certified as a personal trainer, right? And I was like, yeah. And she's like, you can say you know about fitness, but if you're not working out, like, who's going to believe you? And I was like, that's a really good point. And so she sent over this Excel spreadsheet. She's like, I want you to fill this out. And basically from the hours of 5 a.m. to 11 p.m., we made it 24 hours, but I planned out every single day, every single hour of my day by the half hour. And when I was working, I would write work. When I was sleeping, and it wasn't really on there. Anyway, I planned everything to the half hour. And she said, fill this out exactly how you want your ideal week to look. And I filled it out. And the next week we hopped on a call and she said, okay, let's go through it. And she went half hour by half hour, which was insane to think about back then. But like Kirk Cousins does his life every 15 minutes, schedules in bathroom breaks too. And he attributes his success to it. But anyway, she went half hour by half hour. And she said, did you do this? And let's say it was working out. I was like, yeah, I did it. She was like, did you do it at 1 p.m. like you said you were going to do it? I was like, no, I did it at 3. And she would click the little drop box and say, done, but not in the time. And the box went red. And I was like, whoa, red, I did it. She's like, doesn't matter. We got to the end, and everything that was done in the time frame that I said I was going to get done was green. And everything that was done, but not in the time frame, was red. And everything that wasn't done at all or pushed off or whatever was red as well. And this Excel spreadsheet calculated it all out. And my very first week of managing my time with my advisor, can anybody guess what the percentage of my green was on this weekly calendar? And if anybody can get it to the number, I will Venmo you $1. Just DM me. But I had a percentage of 14% green managing my time. 14%. I thought that I was doing great. I was like, man, I'm working 3 jobs. I'm getting all my homework done. I am working out. I am becoming a certified personal trainer. I'm doing everything I need to do. But I literally would plan out my day, and either everything got pushed to the very end or got pushed off to another day. And so what happened was, and I just put out another episode on balance and living life at both streams. That's one of my philosophies, but I became obsessed with time management. I studied the ins and outs. I saw it as a challenge. My advisor was like, oh, you should manage your time better once you get to 80%. I was like, 80%? She was like, yes, that's the 80-20 rule. And then we kind of look at where your time is going and what's getting you the best results. And we started applying the actual 80-20 principle. But 80% is like really good balance in life. When I had fitness clients, I would tell them, hey, it's awesome to get 100%, be 100% on your nutrition plan, hit 100% of your workouts. But if you're hitting 100%, like let's say you eat salad 3 meals a day, every single day of the week, and you're 100% on it, and you are like, I'm seeing great results and everything, but on Friday night, your friends want to have pizza, and it drives you mentally insane that you can't have pizza. you can have the pizza. Because if you are at 100% and it's either leading to burnout or stress and anxiety, that's going to be worse than taking the percentage down, enjoying life, and then just hopping right back on your consistency. So a good balance is to follow the 80-20 principle itself and be at 80%, right? I became obsessed with time management to the point where I became a robot. If anybody wanted to plan things with me, it was like 3-4 weeks out on a calendar link. Like my best friends were like, hey, you want to hang out? And I'm like, here you go. And I would send them my link. And my calendar was color coded and everything else. And I lived at that extreme for a little bit. And then I learned that 80%. Okay, so if I plan out my week and I hit 80% of it, that's really good consistency. And what became this really complex process of time management actually became really, really simple. Is you should know what you want to do, but be flexible enough to change it, right? You should be able to write down exactly what you're going to do, hold yourself to it. But if something happens and you can't hold yourself to it, be able to move it off and do it some other time, delegate it, or dismiss it. When you stop filling your life with all this noise, when you start focusing on what matters most, when you start prioritizing and putting down in writing what you're going to do, you build personal integrity, right? You finally hear what's important. You finally see what's important. So this week, I'm going to challenge you guys to something. I want you to ask yourself a simple question. Am I just surviving in life? Am I just kind of taking every day as this, oh, if it pops up, I'll do it? Other than that, I'm just on cruise control? And if the answer is yes, another question is, what is one small thing I can do today to start thriving? What is one small thing that I can do today to make tomorrow more productive? What is one small thing I can do today to make tomorrow better? Survival mode is exhausting. It either leads to stress, anxiety, burnout, or it leads to the other end of you're so content with where you're at and just going through the motions that eventually you're going to be like, what am I even doing? You might get depressed. You might go through a midlife crisis, but you go through the motions long enough, and once you start to want something or once you start to desire something and you realize you can't get it because you haven't changed at all, it's going to hit you. Survival mode is very exhausting. Thriving, however, starts with very small and simple steps. Don't wait for your circumstances to change. Don't wait for anybody else or anything else to change. Start by changing how you show up today. Start by asking, what's one area of your life that feels like it's on autopilot, right? And what's one simple change that you can make to break free from that pattern? And before you go, I just want to leave you with one last note. Thriving doesn't mean overhauling your entire life overnight. Don't take all this and just be like, oh my gosh, I got to change everything. It starts with small, simple shifts. Showing up differently today than you did yesterday. If this episode hit home for you or you heard something that resonated with you, do me a favor, share it with someone who might be feeling stuck right now, right? Don't miss out on future episodes where we're going to break down simple solutions for living better and living more satisfied. Thank you guys for spending time with me today. And until next time, keep it simple, stay satisfied, keep smiling, keep striving, and I will catch you guys in the next episode.